So what about Ephraim and Manasseh? Is Ephraim now represented by Puerto Rico and Manasseh by Cuba and all the other machinations that they have about the 12 tribes of Israel because of the color of their skin and the lost tribes of Israel and their phony history? The answer is no. Consider the following, a few logical historical points here. Then Israel saw Joseph's sons, Israel meaning Jacob, renamed Israel, saw Joseph's sons and said, "Who are these?" His grandsons. Joseph said to his father, "They are my sons, whom God has given me in this place, in Egypt." And he said, "Please bring them to me, and I will bless them." Now the eyes of Israel were dim with age, so that he could not see. Then Joseph brought them near him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, "I had not thought to see your face, but in fact God has also shown me your offspring." So Joseph brought them from beside his knees, and he bowed down with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim with his right hand toward Israel's left hand, and Manasseh with his left hand toward Israel's right hand, and brought them near him. Then Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, guiding his hand knowingly, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph and said, "God, before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked," he capitalized this, "the God who has fed me all my life long to this day, the angel who has redeemed me from all evil, bless the lads. Let my name be named upon them, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth." Now when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand on the head of Ephraim, it displeased him. So he took hold of his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. And Joseph said to his father, "Not so, my father, for this one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head." But his father refused and said, "I know, my son, I know. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his descendants shall become a multitude of nations." So he blessed them that day, saying, "By you Israel will bless, saying, may God make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh." And thus he set Ephraim before Manasseh. Genesis 48, 8-20. While the British Empire grew to become a multitude of nations, this is not really the case of Puerto Rico. And while many will consider that the USA became great, Cuba is not in the same league. Thus, Anglo-Saxon, Celtic, American, British Israelism is much more consistent with the prophecies of Jacob. For more details, see Anglo-American prophecy and the lost tribes of Israel. Getting back to ancient artifacts, very little from the ancient world is in color, but some materials beyond hieroglyphs and some paintings are. For example, are you familiar with the mosaics from the Huqaq synagogue of the early 400s AD? Here is some information related to it and some of the mosaics there. Huqaq, however you want to use, was an ancient Jewish village located 12.5 kilometers north of Tiberias. The area had been settled since ancient times and is mentioned in the book of Joshua. A 2011 dig led by archaeologist Jody Magnus excavated several sections at the site of the former village. Among the structures uncovered during the 2012 dig were the remains of an elaborate synagogue dated to the 5th century. Findings include limestone carvings and an elaborate floor mosaic. The mosaic includes of the biblical hero Samson. According to archaeologist Jody Magnus, the discovery is significant because only a small number of ancient late Roman synagogue buildings are decorated with mosaic showing biblical scenes, and only 2 others have scenes with Samson. One is at another site just a couple of miles from Huqaq. The mosaic also shows two human faces, apparently female, flanking a Hebrew inscription promising a reward to those who perform good deeds. Wikipedia, look it up. Now see the following. Discovery of Jewish mosaics in Israel bring color to biblical accounts. You can see these on the website, or you see it here on the YouTube. This color, depiction of Numbers 13:23, grapes from promised land. And here's another one, at the ancient site of Hukok, near the Sea of Galilee. In modern Israel, a number of stunning mosaics depicting biblical, astrological, and historical narratives have been uncovered in a Jewish village that flourished during the late Roman Empire. The colorful and large number of mosaics found in the synagogue challenged traditional views about Jewish art of the period as symbolic rather than representational of biblical texts, bland and in decline during the period. So, you can look this up. It's online, these pictures. Yes, we get color from the mosaics. And we see two white men carrying the grapes. The following mosaic is the two human-faced portion of the Samson mosaic. Parts have been decayed at Hukok. The faces are of primarily Caucasian people. Jewish mosaic of the 5th century. Jim Haberman. Notice also the following. In 2018, photographs of newly discovered mosaics were published in conjunction with a 70-page interim report of the excavations from 2014 to 2017. The new publication shows that the floor mosaic also depicts Noah's Ark, the 12 Israelite spies, Numbers 13, 1-33, and Moses' parting of the Red Sea, themes that are rarely, if ever, found in synagogues of the time. Other images show Jonah being swallowed by the fish and the building of the Tower of Babel. Hukok. Look it up. Wikipedia. Online. Experts said the wealth of mosaics show that Jewish life in the surrounding village flourished during Christian rule in the 5th century. This challenges a widely held view that Jewish settlements in the area declined during that period. Our work sheds light on a period when our written sources about Judaism are rabbinic literature from the Jewish sages of this period and references in early Christian literature, said Magnus, who noted it showed only the viewpoint of the men who wrote it. Additionally, every Christian literature generally was hostile to Jews and Judaism. Look at this mosaic. A mosaic depicting Jonah being swallowed by a fish. The Hukok excavation project has involved experts from a host of universities, including Baylor University, Brigham Young, University of Toronto, as well as the Israel Antiquities Authority and Tel Aviv University. So we've got some substantiation here about racism. If you look at the legs of the man being swallowed by the great fish, they showed a light-skinned person. Look at his legs. See the legs right here? Okay. You can take a look at that on the. You can blow it up here online and get a good picture of it as well. That's on the website. Look at the title. black_Jews.htm. This whole article is there. So the Hukok excavation project has involved experts from a host of universities, including Baylor University, Brigham Young, University of Toronto, and so on. Take a look at it here firsthand as well. So if you look at the legs of the man being swallowed by the great fish, they show a light-skinned person. One of the reasons I reported about all of this is because of several people who have repeatedly tried to insist that the ancient Hebrews and Jews were black, including Jesus. Well, there was a mixed multitude that went with the Israelites out of the land of Egypt. A number of Egyptians went with them. Exodus 12:38. It is like some were black, But to try to insist that most Israelites were black is not the case. The Apostle Paul wrote, "Let no one deceive you by any means." 2 Thessalonians 2:3. All right, just picked the rice up off the stove. The Apostle Paul wrote, "Let no one deceive you by any means," 2 Thessalonians 2:3. And he himself gave some to be apostles, prophets, evangelists, some pastors, teachers, for the equipping of the saints, for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body of Christ. So we all come to the unity of the faith and the knowledge of the Son of God, to a perfect man, to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ, that we should no longer be children, tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine by the trickery of men. Oh boy, even nowadays, in the cunning craftiness of deceitful plotting. Some of these big mega churches, all the books that they write, Shadow Mountain Church. Why don't you just examine a passage in the Bible? Yeah, I write about these things, but I'm reading the scriptures and keeping it in context. But speaking the truth in love may grow up in all things into him who is the head, Christ, from whom the whole body, joined and knit together by what every joint supplies, according to the effective working by which every part does its share, causes growth of the body to the edifying of itself in love. I'm not so happy with the church age fulfilling that. Some make emotional appeals, some misinterpret scriptures, some twist doctrines to suit their own agendas and desires, as I was just commenting. Yet, part of the purpose of having the faithful ministry is to prevent deception. Notice something Jesus foretold. "Indeed, I will make those of the synagogue of Satan, who say they are Jews and are not, but lie. Indeed, I will make them come and worship before your feet, and to know that I have loved you." Revelation 3:9. Basically, the black Israelites are neither physical Jews, spiritual Jews, or true Church of God Christians, despite all their behaviors of all sects of Christianity. Some claim that Revelation 3:9 is a reference to non-blacks who claim to be Jews, when in reality that is a prophecy about people claiming to be spiritual Jews, Christians, who are not. Before going further, notice the following. Black Hebrew Israelism has roots in black Judaism. Its basic belief is that American blacks are the real descendants of the Hebrews of the Old Testament, and that those who today call themselves Jews are lying about being the Bible's chosen people. Many followers believe that whites and Jews will soon be either killed or enslaved as payback from God for their role in enslaving Africans in the Americas. Over there by Horton Plaza there in San Diego, that's where they held me captive for 30, 40 minutes. Nobody objected, too. They just wouldn't let me go. And they threatened me with some kind of an idea that my destiny is to be killed or enslaved. Perhaps the most bizarre thing about black Hebrew Israelism is the way it mirrors, with only a change of color, the ideas of Christian identity. Identity is an important white supremacist theology practiced in many Ku Klux Klan groups, along with other entities like the once important Aryan nations. So, while it is true that many of the end-time descendants of Israel who are white are subject to slavery according to the Bible, it is not because their ancestors were involved with the slave trade, plus that would include blacks as well as black leaders, were instrumental in providing the slaves that came to the Americas. It should also be pointed out that in the CCOG we do not believe that the so-called Christian identity movement is correct or Christian either. For clues to the end-time physical identities of the children of Israel, notice what the Bible records. "And Jacob called his sons and said, 'Gather together, that I may tell you what shall befall you in the last days. Gather together and hear, you sons of Jacob, and listen to Israel your father. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity, and the excellency of power. Unstable as water, you shall not excel, because you went up to your father's bed, then you defiled it. He went up to my couch. Simon and Levi are brothers, instruments of cruelty are in their dwelling place. and so on. So we'll read this next time.